Why does Gregory the Great say you need all the virtues all at once, or you don't have any of them? Part of it's a common sense teaching, and it's largely that if you are a virtuous person, you have to have all the virtues at once. Let me just give you an example. Let's say you're making a tough decision. Well, you're going to need wisdom to make that decision. And to know that it's a good decision, you're going to need to know that it's just. And when you make a just decision that's good and prudent to do, you're going to need the courage to take the step in faith to do the hard thing. But a lot of time that will produce anger at you or frustration or fear or whatever. So you need self-control to make sure to ensure that those things don't make you fearful. Well, those are the four cardinal virtues in the classical virtue tradition, and it shows you that really you need all four of them together. You need wisdom to choose, justice to know what a thing that is good is, courage to do it, and self-control not to be overwhelmed by by whatever it could try to prevent you from doing it. And Gregory is using some of those traditional categories, but for him, he actually doesn't start with the cardinal virtues. He begins with the 7 virtues that the Holy Spirit gives to Christians according to Isaiah chapter 11. So while he's speaking generally in the wisdom tradition, the virtue tradition, he's particularly in a Christian setting. And those 7 gifts of the Spirit are wisdom, understanding, counsel, fortitude, knowledge, piety, and fear. And he says the virtues, this is book 1, section 45, are all radically abandoned if one does not support the other. Wisdom certainly has less dignity if understood. Understanding is absent. Understanding, however, is completely useless and supported by wisdom. For though it reaches very high without wisdom's height, its own weightlessness carries it to a point from which its fall will have dire consequences, and so on. After he explains how they're all connected, he says, since one virtue is nourished by another in constant mutual service, we are right. He goes on to say, we're rightly told that Job's sons were fed by one another in turn. And so since one's virtue supports the other by being virtuous, we may say there is a large family of those preparing banquets, each taking a turn and each to be fed. What's interesting is a turn he makes here, that, yeah, they're all united together, they all mutually support each other, but they also support not only the 7 gifts of the Spirit, the general ones, but also the 3 theological gifts of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love. He says, since our virtues promote faith, hope, and charity in all that they do, Job's sons are somewhat like workers who invite their 3 sisters to a meal. Sisters here being the 3 theological virtues. So that faith, hope, and love, or charity, may rejoice at the good works that each virtue puts into operation. Well, this is an important caveat here. For Gregory, he must recognize that wisdom and understanding and piety, for him, piety is works of mercy. Yes, they all have to be known together, and if you don't have them all, they don't work. You can't be pious if you don't know how to properly be merciful or whatever. But he says, particularly for Christians, that they are promoters of, connected to, our faith, hope, and love. So there's a really close connection between our belief and our hopes and our loves and our particular moral virtue. It seems to be an important connection that we don't always, sometimes we're too intellectual about faith, for example, where we underemphasize the practicality of, knowing what is right and so on. Gregory doesn't appear to do that, but he ties together the 7 gifts of the Spirit from Isaiah 11 and shows how they are general gifting that all Christians have that are particularly important as we consider our faith, hope, and love. So why does Gregory the Great think that you need all the virtues together? Simply because you do. It's pretty straightforward and common sense that you can't make a just decision if you don't have wisdom to choose. And if a just decision is often a hard decision, so you're going to need courage and self-control to be able to do it. Just to give you one example, all the virtues are all kind of connected together in this kind of irreversible tightening. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, hit a bell if there's there, comment, etc. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much.